The 49ers playoff hopes are quite possibly on the line tomorrow night in Seattle. Are they taking the game seriously enough? What adjustments will they make? And what happens if they don't win against the Seahawks? We'll talk about it all on today's show, sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. What is good, everybody? Welcome to Stats and Cone on the Gold Standard of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He is Grant Cone. Grant, it's week, 6? But it already feels like season on the brink.
Yeah, they can't lose this game. It's not like they fall out of the playoff contention entirely, but how do you look at yourself as a good team if you lose this game? You've lost to all three division opponents, and you got the Chiefs coming up after that. It looks like impending free fall. So that's why I sort of expect the 49ers' best effort. We've seen them give good efforts this season against the Jets, against the Patriots. They showed up and looked like a cohesive team that stinks in the red zone, but still a cohesive team nonetheless. The collapses against the two division opponents, I mean, they could do it again. I would be surprised if they did it 2 weeks in a row, although they did just do it two games in 3 weeks.
And they would have 4 losses in the NFC too. So it would be like, the more I think about this game, like clearly your back is against the wall. There's no question about it. And when your back is against the wall, and especially when you have a short week like they have this week, you got to go back to what your staples are, to your tried and true, to the things you do best. And for me and for the 49ers, it's run the ball and use play action. That's it. That has to be what you rely on. You know, all the players this week kept talking about how, like, there's like no game planning. You're taking a week's worth of game planning and you're trying to jam it into 2 days. It's incredibly difficult to do, right? So you got to rely on the old faithful. And for me, for the 49ers, it's running and play action. And I expect to see a heavy dose of that tomorrow.
You know what's funny? I think you're onto something. You could argue that both the 49ers and the Seahawks were sort of looking ahead to Thursday night in their Sunday losses because neither team really ran the ball. And it's like, well, why? Well, that's so out of character. Why would you not give the ball to Jordan Mason more than 14 times? They handed off to Kenneth Walker 5 times. What are you doing? Well, maybe they were thinking, well, we're going to need these 2 running backs because we're not really going to game plan for the Thursday game. I mean, it's going to be real simple. So we're going to use all our creativity on Sunday and then just try to run the hell out of the ball on Thursday. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe this is going to be the Jordan Mason versus Kenneth Walker show. I'm down for that.
The 49ers have said they expect a heavy dose of Kenneth Walker, which scares the
repeatedly.
Yeah.
And I was doing a podcast with some Seahawks people yesterday. They said the same thing. Like they expect a lot of Kenneth Walker.
And that scares me because he's really hard to tackle. And the 49ers struggled to tackle James Conner in the second half. I don't understand that. They were so good against Conner in the first half. I think he had 6 carries for 9 yards. They had no problem tackling James Conner in the first half against Arizona. In the second half, it was like he switched jerseys with somebody. They could not bring him down. It was unbelievable. And I do worry if they're going to be able to tackle Kenneth Walker if he does see a heavy workload.
I thought it was interesting that Nick Bosa blamed, the lack of adjustments. Being there, it seemed to me like a thin defensive line that was getting tired in 95-degree heat. Maybe Nick Sorensen could have made an adjustment, but I think Nick Bosa and the players have to own that one too, or John or whomever. Like it's just not that great of a D line. It's not deep like it used to be.
It's not at all. You're 100% right. And Shanahan and Sorensen both, when asked specifically about that, disagreed with Bosa publicly, which is like, all right, that's not a comfortable situation to be in. Kevin says, is this the most trouble the 49ers have been in the banana hands era? If not, how close are we? I don't think it's the most trouble because they were 3-5. They started 2-5. They started 3-5. They're not there yet. They're 2-3. And if they win, they're tied for first in the division. So it's a weird spot to be in. It's like if you lose, you're probably not making the playoffs. But if you win, you're tied for first in your division. There's no in between.
Yeah, and if they lose this game, it's like, man, you're going to go on a losing streak, it looks like. And I don't really see this team as a team that's going to go 5-12 or lose 5 in a row. To me, this has all the makings of a 8-9, 9-8 team, a team that pulls it together for a week or two, wins an impressive game, beats a good team, and then blows it. for a week or two. And it's like, what is going on? Where is that standard? And they capture it here and there, but really it's not the cohesive team it was a few years ago or even last year. That's my best interpretation. I'm open to being wrong. Maybe Christian McCaffrey comes back and they tear off eight in a row, but this just seems like a team that's going to have it one week, not have it the next.
It's so funny because I saw the column from Mike Silver, the column where 3 49ers players said it's weird. It's weird. The season's weird. It's funny to me. Like, I feel like they're acting like it's some mystical thing. They're just not as good. Like, it's not, you're not as good as you were. Like, it's not a mystery, and I think like for the defense, I was totally wrong about the defense. I thought they were going to be maybe, much better than last year. I thought that the secondary was the best secondary in the Shanahan era. I was wrong. I was flat out wrong. This defense, I think, is doing the best that it can do. I think this is the best that they are capable of.
See, I think you're being too hard on yourself. I think you were right. I think this defense is underperforming, and I think we got to talk about Nick Sorensen. I don't want to just blame a defensive coordinator 5 games into his tenure, but I'm not sure that he's necessarily getting the most out of this defense right now. And I'll point to one position group in particular, the secondary. As you pointed out, is it that they were fugazi and you just overestimated them, or is it that this is a group that intercepted 16 passes last year and showed a lot of playmaking ability, and now they have 0 picks through 5 games, and it's like, did they forget it? Did they all of a sudden, did they all fall off, or are they not being put in positions to make those plays anymore? I mean, I'm not a film grinder like you are per se, but I feel like Sorensen has something to answer for here. And I know it seemed like Nick Bosa and Fred Warner wanted Steve Wilks out of there, but how does secondary feel? Like, a lot of those guys had career years under Steve Wilks. He's a secondary guy. I wonder how some of those guys feel about that switch.
So I actually came across a stat right before we hit record that stunned me, because I was like right on board with you. The 49ers are tied for the 3rd most pass breakups this season, which I was like, really? Because I don't remember a lot of those. Now, to be fair, I don't know if that includes linebackers. And yeah, I don't know.
D linemen.
But
yeah,
they have not intercepted that group specifically.
Yeah.
Mustafa had a bad drop. They've had a couple of bad drops, but they haven't been able to do it. I'm surprised at the level of criticism that Sorensen has taken to this point. And maybe it's just because I'm letting them off the hook. I don't think that they're the biggest problem to me. The biggest problem is the red zone. The biggest problem is not punching it into the end zone. The defense has their problems, yes, but like, if we're looking for people to blame, to me, the aim has to be directed at Kyle Shanahan and the offense more so than the defense.
Sure. I mean, I just feel like it just feels like it's a team where one game is going to be the defense and one game is going to be the offense. They just don't seem like a cohesive team. And I just want to stick with the secondary for a second. We'll go to the red zone in just a minute. Like Charvarius Ward in particular, what's going on? Is he hurt? Yeah, he's on the injury report. But like last year, he had 5 picks and 23 pass breakups. Like, he was incredible last year. This year, he has no picks and 4 pass breakups. And he's not getting like torched left and right. He's just not really a factor. Teams really avoid him for most of the game, and they'll complete 1 or 2 passes on him. But it feels like Steve Wilks put him right at the point of attack last year. Like, he put him right in the eye of the storm. We want you covering the best player man to man. And he really rose to the occasion. And I don't really understand the plan for Charvarius Ward this season. It seems like he's going to be gone next year. He's going to be a free agent, and there's no really like investment in him in the current coaching staff.
He's been, I mean, by his own admission, he's been bad. He said he feels like he's playing the worst football of his career. Those are his words, not mine. So
I would agree with that. But the question is, why? Did he fall off overnight, or is he not being used like he was last year? Or both?
Or some combination. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, he is at an age where a lot of corners drop off. What is he? Let's see. I think he's 29, 28. He's right on the edge. Like, there are not a ton of really good 30-year-old corners in the league. And when you fall off at corner, it comes fast. It's not like, he's not quite as good as it's like, nope, there's a cliff there. And sometimes you go over it. Is he at that point? I don't know.
Is it also possible that he's been playing injured for the last few weeks and not talking about it because he knows he's a free agent next year and he can't afford to miss games? And, I'm saying, like, I don't know. I'm not like Charvarius Ward's agent over here. I just feel like everyone's dumping on him right now. I think he's given up 15 catches this year and a touchdown. It's not like he's a liability. Lenore's been better than him, but Lenore's given up 13 catches and a touchdown. It's just, we remember the 2-2 Atwell catch. I think he gave up a long one against Arizona. I think he's playing banged up and not talking about it. And there's no excuse. If you're on the field, you gotta play well. But I do think it's clear that Sorensen isn't trusting him the way that Wilkes did last year. And I think that's maybe affecting Ward's confidence. I have no idea. It's interesting.
Yep, we'll get to a super chat in a second, but I want to remind people too. Ward had a stretch like this last year too, where he was not good, and he turned it on later in the season, and he was awesome. Now I don't know, he was banged up last year too a little bit, but even last year he was playing with an injury, and it still turned it on and was good. So maybe there's hope for him. I hope so. I love Mooney Ward. He's one of my favorite 49ers talkers. Earlier this season, he said, I feel like the defense is playing like ass, which is like an all-time good soundbite. But I do agree. I don't like when they line up and I see him 10 yards off a guy. Like, his best attribute is press man coverage. Now, if he's hurt and he can't do that, okay. But like you said, if you're out there, like, if you're too hurt to be used in the best way possible, then you shouldn't be out there.
Especially, you know, it almost feels like, I hate to get into irresponsible speculation.
Oh,
he's going to be a free agent next year, and the Niners probably want him back, and they know he's going to be expensive. So if you put him on DK Metcalf this week and say, man up and shut him down, and he does, well, his price tag goes through the freaking roof. Or you could just play standard defense, play 10 yards off, say, Charvarius, you're staying on the left side today. And whatever happens, happens. I don't know. That's kind of nefarious. I don't want to accuse people of, that kind of stuff. But I'm sure that goes through a player's mind. Like, wait a second. Are you trying to mess with my money? Like, what's going on here? Why am I not being used the same way? Like, let me be the star. You trusted me last year to be the star. I stepped up. What's going on?
There are definitely some Mooney Ward questions I would like to. And you know what? Like, if you ask him, he may answer. Like, Mooney doesn't really give a bleep when you ask him. Like, he'll answer honestly, I feel like.
I've been around his locker the last couple of weeks. I get the feeling that there's something going on that he doesn't really want to say on the record, which makes me feel like it's bad. If it was like acceptable and kosher, he'd say it. Like, there's something he won't say, and I want to know what it is.
He told Mike Silver. Mike Silver was talking to him, and he said, I know exactly what's wrong.
He said that?
Yeah, and then he said, I shouldn't say that.
I'm telling you, man, he is hinting at something seriously wrong with this locker room. And I don't know what it is. I'm in the locker room. It doesn't seem the same. These guys aren't all like hanging out together and laughing together. It's like guys walk to their locker and leave, and they feel like a bunch of independent contractors who are coexisting. But again, it's still early October. Maybe they pull out of it. That's what Charvarius Ward. I asked him yesterday. I was like, what is different about this team? He's like, I don't know, man. We went through this last year. Like, we'll pull out of it. Yeah, or they won't. We'll see.
Right. And Kyle, to his credit, said, we got to write our own story this year. He said the other years don't matter, which, yes, good. Get rid of that disease of entitlement that has infected this locker room. And Kyle's partly to blame for that, to be honest, because he's entitled too sometimes. But you got to, just because you did it in previous years doesn't mean you're going to do it again this year.
I feel like maybe different segments of the team look at Kyle differently after this last Super Bowl loss, but I wonder if certain players, aka the DBs, look at Kyle funny for firing Wilkes after the Super Bowl. Like, really? Him? That's our guy. Why he actually did a good job. Maybe I'm wrong, but I always felt that Steve Wilkes got unfairly scapegoated for that game. I wonder if anyone else in the team does.
I think he got unfairly scapegoated. Again, like, they were third in points allowed in the league last year, and they played well in the Super Bowl. Now, again, they weren't perfect, but they played well.
But, I mean, that's the most important thing. Like, forget the regular season. When it came down to the Super Bowl, Wilkes did a better job than Robert Saleh did with the Niners. Robert Saleh gave up 31, right? He did. And I love Robert Saleh, and he's a really good defensive coordinator. Wilkes did better. What's that?
Kicking Saleh while he's down.
Because if Saleh was here right now, he's like, whoa, they had Tyreek Hill when I was on. Yeah, sure, that's true. But still, Wilkes did a hell of a job in that Super Bowl, and I think the the Chiefs respected what he did, and I wonder if certain players in the Niners were surprised, or it seems clear that Nick Bosa wanted him gone, but I wonder if there's if Bosa speaks for everyone on that defense or on that team.
I don't know. It didn't seem like Wilkes had a lot of support within, and
It
maybe
didn't.
they took their cue from Kyle. I don't know, but
Not from Warner, not from Bosa, but again, those DBs in the Niners aren't necessarily like captains, right? They're important players, but they don't have weekly press conferences. They're not really faces of the team, but they're important. They're highly paid, and I don't really know how they feel.
Brother Bob says Kyle Levy is great. Why losses to inferior talent? I do think that the talent gap between the Niners and everybody else is smaller this year than it has been, but they clearly have lost to inferior talent this year twice.
Yeah, when you have Devondre Campbell on the field, it's like you can't say that you're head and shoulders better than other teams. You have some serious weaknesses.
But they were more talented than the Rams, and they blew that away. They were more talented than the Cardinals for sure, and they're
more talented than the Seahawks.
They are.
Yeah,
I completely agree.
And the Niners' issue right now is that they're beating themselves.
Yes, the turnovers are crippling, which is another reason why I want them to get back to running the ball and to play action. Because if you do that, you don't turn the ball over. You protect yourself.
I have another suggestion for the offense. If they're taking suggestions out of the suggestion box, Brock, I love you, man. And I love what you've done in the league and what you've proven to be. But can you get back to checking down? You need to check down every once in a while. It's nothing. There's no shame in checking down. You're not going to lose money if you check down. The whole hold the ball for 8 seconds. That's Justin Fields stuff. And frankly, he's not doing that as much anymore. That's Justin Fields on Chicago stuff. That's Caleb Williams stuff. That's not you. You can do it sometimes, but you look indecisive. Take the check down. Jordan Mason is open and he has the jugs machine. He ain't Christian McCaffrey, but you're treating him like he has no hands. He can catch. And I think he would really improve the offense as a receiver. Because right now, everything is force the ball downfield. Force the ball downfield. That's not their offense. Check it down, please.
I completely agree. More checkdowns, I think, would do this team good. I found this before the show started. Just a quick snapshot. Now, there's a lot of context that's not here. I get it. But just for the sake of argument, Brock, without play action this year, is completing almost 63% of his passes, 8 yards per attempt, 4 picks without play action. With play action this year, his completion percentage is almost 80. His yards per attempt are 12.4, and he has no picks on play action. Please, Kyle, please go back to the staple of your offense. Play action passing. Use more of it. It'll build Brock's confidence. I think it'll protect the football. I'm begging for it on Thursday.
Why do you think Kyle Shanahan is straying from play action? Because it seemed like Tom Brady didn't get it and didn't ever figure out his question to that. What do you think?
I don't know. And it's been going the past 3 years. The play action rate has been decreasing every season. Now, look, Kyle's a lot smarter than me when it comes to football. I'm sure it has to do with the fronts that they're playing and situationally, what's the down and distance and all that stuff. But also sometimes, I feel like you can get lost in the weeds a little bit. Like I said, when your back's against the wall this week, just go back to what you do best. Do what you do best better than what they do best.
Let me try to say what Kyle Shanahan would say, because I'm a big Kyle Shanahan guy.
Oh, yeah.
So what he would say, well, the reason that the numbers are so efficient on play action is because I'm calling it at the right time. I'm not forcing it. I'm calling it against the right look. He would say that, right? And there's some truth to that. And what he would say is okay, you want me to call more play action? What about when they put 6 on the line and they might blitz? I mean, you want me to turn my quarterbacks back to the defense? And when really he needs to find this hot guy, that could be a fumble. That could be an injury. That's serious stuff. So I feel like defenses have figured out if they show certain looks pre-snap, Kyle's not going to feel safe calling play action. And they don't even have to blitz. They just have to show the possibility of a blitz, and Kyle will default to shotgun drop back. And then all of a sudden like you've said on Twitter, the defense is dictating to Kyle, which is not good.
And he has said specifically in the past that he doesn't want the defenses to be able to dictate to him.
Ooh.
Sorry. That's why it's weird. But okay, they put 6 down on the line. Great. Bring in another tight end. Bring in 2 more tight ends. You can still do play action.
Right.
I would stick with it anyway. I would find a way to do it. You can't tell me that as long as a team has 6 down linemen on the line of scrimmage, well, you can never play action ever. There's no possible way to do it. I just don't believe that.
Well, Kyle likes to do play action with 4 or 5 receivers in the pattern because he really likes to show how intricate and creative he can get. Whereas Jim Harbaugh would call a play action pass with 2 guys in the pattern and max protect extra blockers. and really, really sell that you're running the ball. Like, why can't you do that? You bring in all those extra blockers, it might even make the play action more effective. Why not? It's not something. It's like it's not something you ever see Kyle Shanahan do. How about a personnel grouping of Jordan Mason, Kyle Juszczyk, George Kittle, Eric Sobert, and Jennings? Like, just all the best blockers on the field at one time. Say we're running the ball at you, and then when you do play action, it probably surprise the hell out of them.
That's what I want to see. And I know, like, we're in this whole, Jordan Mason, the workload. Not tomorrow, man. Give him 25, 30 carries. Or Booker Render, whatever.
Because the Seahawks are going to do that with Kenneth Walker, and you can't let them beat you at that game.
I think so, too. And here's the other thing, Grant. This is Seattle's third game in 11 days. They are tired. They are beat up. That defense has been on the field for more than 60 minutes the past 2 weeks. That's why I'm saying run it. Tire them the hell out. Even if it's not totally working early on, it'll work in the second half. They are going to get worn down. So just keep doing it. We've heard Kittle talk about how Kyle will run plays that might not necessarily be successful in the moment to set up something big later. That's what I think they need to do with the running game.
It's going to be interesting. This game is going to be so interesting because I don't feel like the Seahawks are going to beat themselves. They can run the ball, which is conservative. Geno Smith isn't going to try to make big plays. He's going to get the ball and rock and fire, get the ball out of his hands as quickly as possible, throw to running backs, throw quick outs to slot receivers. He'll take a couple of shots to DK, but really not that many. He's just going to hold serve and see what the Niners do. And recently, the Niners, that's a game they'll lose. They will find a way, even if they're winning in the second half, to do something stupid and lose it. So, like, that's really the test. You're not going against a dominant team. You're going against a team that's pretty much going to go out there and do a bunch of nothing. They'll put up some numbers, but they're really going to try to not lose the game on their own, which is the right thing to do against the Niners right now. Let's see if you can win a game because you've been losing.
Geno has 5 touchdowns and 4 picks this year. To me, if you want
him, suck in the red zone.
If you want him to throw a pick, you've got to get pressure on him. You have to. And the 49ers have not been able to consistently do that. If you get pressure on him, he'll go down. Number one, this is not Kyler Murray we're talking about here. And number two, he'll give you opportunities to take the football away. You have to do it.
Hey, Rob, I got to interrupt you for a minute. You're my boy, right?
Yes.
You know I love you, right?
Oh, I see. That you're setting me up for something here.
You know I love you, right? You know that'll never change, right?
Yes.
What the hell were you talking about last week saying that Brock Purdy's playing better than Patrick Mahomes? What the hell were you talking about?
He was. Until last week, he was.
He will never. He never has, never will.
Do you know who's worse in the red zone than the 49ers this year?
I know. Can we stay on topic for a second? The thing about Patrick Mahomes, and then we'll go back to the Niners. When it matters, he's always the greatest quarterback of all time. When it matters. So I don't care what the numbers say over a 4-game stretch. He's the GOAT. And he's proven it time and time again.
But I never said that Brock was better than Patrick Mahomes. I never said that. What I said was, at that point this season, Brock was playing better than Patrick Mahomes. I never said Mahomes was better. Of course,
okay.
Mahomes is
okay,
better.
fair enough. All right, I still love you. Okay, let's get back on topic.
Christian Ayala says, don't be surprised if we get Dante Johnson. The Barnacle, where is he? Is he in the NFL? I don't even know.
I don't know.
I feel like he's been on the 49ers.
Dante Johnson. Oh, I think meant Deontay. Sorry. No, okay.
Yeah, I know. The Barnacle, the Johnson defensive back. So, yeah, that's what I want the 49ers to do. I got into the play action stuff. Okay, let's get into a couple of pieces of audio that I found because people are saying interesting things. And, like, when you're winning and things are good, everybody just kind of, haha, things are great. George Kittle's really funny and stuff. But when you're losing, sometimes people throw little comments and little interesting tidbits and nuggets that just make me scratch my head. George Kittle was on KMBR, I believe, yesterday, and he said a couple of things that made me pause a little bit. I'll play them for you, and you can respond. The first one, listen to this comment from Kittle about the offense and why things haven't clicked at certain times.
There's a couple plays in this game that, hey, we didn't execute at a high enough level. And whether that was because of, maybe something was too confusing. Maybe the defense gave us something that we weren't prepared for. We didn't execute the plays that we needed to execute. We didn't do those things. And they're plays that we've executed before in much more difficult scenarios. So we have to figure out ways to get back to doing that. And then I think a lot of those plays that we make on this last Sunday would have contributed to a win. But I think we're going to figure those out. Coach Shanahan.
What? Well, too confusing. What was too confusing? You've been running the same offense for 7 years. What's too confusing?
I mean, it sounds like he's saying, everyone's saying we need to get back to what we used to do, that we're trying to be too cute, that we're straying from our identity. I mean, a lot of players have been saying that in so many different words. And when you look at Kyle Shanahan's play calling, 41 dropbacks and 22 handoffs, that's not Niners football. Maybe they can win some games like that, but it seems like that they're going to give away games playing like that. Especially like you'd understand it if they just fell behind early and had to come back, but they were up most of the game. There's no reason to do that. Unless you're like, well, we have to have the most explosive offense. No, you don't. You just have to play complementary football and let the defense win the game, which it was going to do. So, yeah.
I thought the confusing part of that was really weird. Here's a little more from Kittle.
When you have him for 20-something straight games, I think you kind of get spoiled with having a player of that, capacity. Our offense might have been a little bit, I don't want to say overconfident, but we haven't been able to do the things that we've been doing for the last 2 years. And so just kind of like refining ourselves without completely changing up our entire offense. And I could be completely wrong, but I was kind of thinking about that. I was like, it kind of makes sense. Like if you just take out one of the most important pieces of the puzzle, your offense changes a little bit. So now I'm not using that as an excuse. Like we should still be able to execute. And we've had chances to win every single game, but we just haven't done it.
And I get that, but we're 5 weeks in now. And Christian hasn't been there the whole season. So, kind of have to figure it out.
But like also you have to, when football players say we, they always say we, but it's not we that they're talking about. Like the player's job in football is to execute. It's not George Kittle's job to figure out how this offense should operate without Christian McCaffrey. That's Kyle's job. George's job is to say, sir, yes, sir, I'll block, I'll run, whatever you want me to do. I'm here. And I mean, George knows football. He could be a commentator. He could be a coach. I'm sure he has all kind of ideas and suggestions, but ultimately that's not his job. And Kyle's not going to George for suggestions. It's on Kyle. And when George says, it's like we got kind of lazy or what, that's not the word he used, but like kind of accustomed to having this cheat code around, and now it's a lot harder. It's like, yeah, Kyle, work harder, man. Like you're smart. You can figure this out. Like it was easy for you the last few years. Like dig deep into your bag.
It's the combination of both, right? Because what are we like? Oh, Kyle was passing the ball too much, right? And then they get down to the red zone. They get down to the 8-yard line. And what does Kyle do right away? On first down, he runs the ball. And you're like, yes, like awesome. And Jordan Mason fumbles. And if you're watching the stream right now, you can see this play in slow motion. Kittle's on the left side. Watch George Kittle get annihilated by Budda Baker. Boom! He gets absolutely blown up. That's not Kyle Shanahan's fault, right? That's
no, it's not
George Kittle. So it's not all of one thing. It's not all bad play calling by Kyle Shanahan in the red zone. It's not all poor execution by the players. It's maddening that it's both, and it's both at different times. And that's why it's like, I think it's been hard to fix because it's not just one thing.
And that's when you start to look at a team as like having problems that are bigger than just like, well, if they just fix this thing in the red zone, or if they just get this one player back, it's like, nah, this is not a cohesive team that's going to be playing well on all three phases in one game, maybe ever this season. And it's going to be like, oh, the defense played well today, but the special teams and the offense stunk. And then the next week it's something else. And again, that's really the hallmark of a team that's, I don't know, like old or tuning out their coach or needs something, man. I'm not saying they got to fire Kyle Shanahan, but it seems like something is stale and wrong with this team. Maybe they fix it in Seattle tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. This was the disconcerting part about this play. When the Niners were in a gotta-have-it situation, Kyle ran the ball, and who did he run it behind? Trent Williams, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk. What do those three have in common? All-pro, all-pro, all-pro. And all of them let the 49ers down on that play.
Can we focus on Trent Williams on this play? Because no one ever scrutinizes Trent Williams. Go back to the beginning. Tell me who Trent Williams blocks on this play.
What happened on?
Let me mute that. We don't need the commentary.
Tell me who Trent Williams blocks in this play. I know George Kittle gets annihilated. George Kittle's going to bump that guy to his right over to Trent Williams. And what does Trent Williams do? He's supposed to go up to the second level. Does he? I mean, watch.
Yeah, he kind of doesn't really do anything.
I don't think he does. He gets that first little bump on the defensive tackle. He tries to climb to the second level, but there's that guy that Kittle's kind of bumping into him.
Like right there, you could kind of see it. Like it looks pretty good, right? Kittle's pushing his guy to the inside. The run's going to the outside. Trent looks like he's going to the second level to take on the linebacker. And then he kind of just gets run past, really.
Yeah.
And then Juice doesn't really handle it either. And so
like if Trent Williams had blocked that guy that Kittle moved into him, that doesn't happen. But Trent's trying to get to the second level, and no one blocks that guy at the point of attack. I don't know. And I know the guy who just drawn up the blocking scheme, it makes it seem like Trent's supposed to go to the second level, but it's like that guy's right in your face and strips the ball. I don't know.
Not ideal. Like that was you went.
And again, like he wasn't there in the offseason. This is the kind of stuff that's going to happen, and they have 3 losses now.
He went.
And I wonder, like again, going back to the locker room dynamics. 2 players wanted extensions this year that are older and had a lot of years left on their deal. McCaffrey, Trent Williams, utterly essential to the team. Christian asked for it first. He got his extension in 2 weeks. The Niners didn't have a fuss. It was like, here you go. By the way, Kyle's going to your wedding. Then Trent Williams was like, oh, by the way, I'd like the same thing because, Christian's really good, but I'm a future Hall of Famer. And the Niners were like, yeah, but you're like 36. But it's like, well, that guy has bilateral Achilles tendonitis. Like, yeah, but you're like, nah. And they waited and they waited. Couldn't bear to have Christian McCaffrey miss a single day at training camp, or mini camp. But Trent Williams is like, yeah, he's playing golf. He doesn't need to be here. The way that they treated those 2 situations so differently when they were really the same situation is weird. And I wonder if Trent noticed or his supporters on the team noticed. Like, what was that?
I want to know the ironic part about it. It would have been better for the 49ers if they switched those 2, right? Don't give Christian the money right away so he stays away, which is his Achilles needed the rest. Like, they got it done, and he missed like 1 day of like voluntary workouts, It's like, damn, maybe if he had held out, he actually would be in better physical shape because he actually needed to rest his poor legs.
Like if you think about it, the best move would have been give Trent the extension right away and then wait on Christian. And then, you find out that he has Achilles tendonitis and then don't give him an extension.
Or maybe he would have been healed up.
Maybe he would have been healed up magically.
Matthew Rowley says this team was already getting old and struggled last year without rest. They have played tons of extra ball and look slow. Maybe they are just too old. I think that this is a point that Vish made Monday, which is the kind of like fill-in guys that the 49ers have gotten. Previously, they were younger players that were sort of ascending, like Charles Omenihu, players like that. Now it's 30-plus-year-old Leonard Floyd. Javon Hargrave, I believe, was 30. Devondre Campbell is over 30. Like, they're not getting the same caliber of those guys, and that's why the team isn't as deep, and that's why the talent level on the roster isn't as good. And, oh, by the way, those 30-year-old guys don't tend to get stronger as the season goes along either. And I think that's a big part of where they are.
Agree. What's funny about this team is they're really largely being carried by the younger players. Jordan Mason, Brock Purdy, Jawan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk in the last game. Fred Warner isn't exactly young, but guys like from 24 to 27, 28. And that always should be the core of your team, but the Niners are more like 30 to 33. Deebo. Can we talk about Deebo for a second, dude? Did he just age? Did he just become washed overnight, or is he making business decisions because he's not going to be on this team next year? Like 2 broken tackles in 5 games. We've never seen Deebo. He's not a good player if he's not breaking tackles. Not a good player if he's not breaking tackles. So what's going on?
Well, this was supposed to be good Deebo this year, right? He looked so good in training camp. It's all anybody ever wanted to talk to about how he was a professional. He was in camp and Brandon Ayuk wasn't, and blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah. You know what it was? He switched his number from 19 to 1 and it's just a slimming number. That's all it is.
The amount of broken tackles he was planning on having. I don't know. They need more out of Deebo, and they need more quick passing too. Like, if he's not separating, great. Throw him some more screens. He had a catch on a screen and he gained 11 yards on it last week. Do that more. Do it more. Quick passing. Put him in a position to succeed. He's never going to be a separator. He's just not. It's not who he is. It's not his skill set.
He's catching 63% of his targets. He's averaging 2.4 yards per carry. He's averaging 4.8 yards after the catch per reception. Like, his numbers are awful. and he's still getting treated like he's the number one option on. Like, why is he starting? Forget Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk had a great game. He's getting paid $30 million. I understand why he's starting. He's the future of this team. He's a little rusty. Good player. Deebo is almost 29. He's not going to be here next year. Jawan Jennings, in my opinion, is clearly better than him at this point in each person's career. What is the Deebo thing at this point? Play Cowing.
Well, Cowing was hurt last week, unfortunately he couldn't. I would love to see more Cowing. They'll never bench Deebo Samuel. That will never.
Trade him then. Trade him. But who wants that contract? Forget it.
I think there would be a market for him if they struggle this year. Like if they lose against Seattle, and they're probably going to lose against Kansas City, and things really go awry for the Niners, I could see a Deebo trade this year. Mike Silver talked about it before Ayuk got his contract, that it was a possibility. Now, I know they restructured him, but I still think they could find a way to do it.
I think they'd be better off trading him, giving more playing time to Jawan Jennings and Jacob Cowing. Pearsall's coming back soon.
Listen,
well, I don't know that. We don't know.
Don't make playtime suggestions, Graham. People on the 49ers get very prickly when you suggest that maybe they shouldn't be playing and be playing more. Okay.
Yeah, Deebo Samuel next questioned me last week. God knows when it's going to happen this week. I respect the next question though. Like, that's fine. You want a next question? That's totally. I don't like all of a sudden be like, I hate that guy. I'm getting him back. Like, hey, you don't want to answer my question? That's completely fine. There's other questions to ask. Just don't insinuate that I'm trying to look at you naked. Like, just don't do that, because that's a low blow.
I literally had people reach out to me and be like, is Juice serious or is he just joking around? And I'm like, no, he's serious.
I think he's serious. It's a pretty lame joke. Anyway.
But, you know, I feel like we've been kind of doom and gloom. It's entirely possible that the 49ers do go into Seattle and do get a victory. It's not like the Seahawks are a juggernaut. It's very possible that they do. They could be 3-3, and then you're like, all right, they'd be tied for first place in the division. Like, you would feel certainly a lot better about yourself if that happens. Of course, I was saying that going into the Arizona game too, but it's very possible that they win on Thursday Night Football in Seattle.
Let me ask you this. If they do beat the Seahawks, does that mean that they're back? Like, how do you put yourself in the Niners win? And it's, you know, they win by 13. It's they really make Geno Smith look like Geno Smith. It's a typical Niners win over the Seahawks. How are you feeling?
Well, how am I feeling, or how do I think they will feel?
How are you feeling as the resident Niners fan here?
I'm feeling like, okay, job done. Like, you know, we got to keep it up. Like, there's no like exhale. There's no like, up, we're back. And you know why I think part of that happens too is because I feel like the Niners never win where like they drive down the field at the end of the game, they get the score with like a minute left and they close it out, right? When they win, they usually win big. And so then it's like every time they win big, I think they get this feeling of like, okay, see, we're back. Like things are fine. We're still us. And it's like, no, you're like, that is gone. That has to be gone.
Stop doing that.
Yes.
Stop doing that.
You have
because every time the Niners win, there's this big exhale, and they start like they beat the Jets, right? And all offseason, people are talking about, man, the vibes on this team are awful. They beat the Jets, and who at his locker after the game starts talking? Who it was Juszczyk. People were saying the vibes were off with this team. I guess they weren't, huh? Boom, you lose 2 in a row. You open your mouth, you lose 2 in a row, and then you beat the Patriots, and all of a sudden, the team starts feeling themselves and talking about, I mean, once again, and then boom, you lose to the Cardinals. So I just want to see a team that's like a little bit more sober and serious about what's in front of them. No one cares what you did in the past. It doesn't matter.
Professional guy says 49ers feel like an overpriced hype team this year. You know what I think part of it was too after the Jets game? It was like, the vibes are off, the vibes are off, the vibes are off. Wait, Ayuk is done. Trent is done. We play the Jets in prime time, we win. And it was like, okay, checks. And I think that maybe partly contributed to it. But there's been too many times where this team exhales. Too many times where they just don't act like they need to, they act like they just need to show up and things will just fall into place. There's too much entitlement.
And they act again like young Mike Tyson, like them sort of like strutting onto the field with the boombox, like teams are going to piss down their leg. Like those days are over. You're not intimidating anymore. No one's scared of you anymore. Bad teams know that if they just hang around, they got a chance down. Everyone knows it. Like you're vulnerable and your confidence is down, and teams look at you as you know, a nice time to face you. And
I'm tired of this team being the team that everybody else beats to get their big win, right? Like the Arizona, Kyler was like almost emotional after the game talking about the victory and what it meant. The Rams were euphoric after they won. Like, I'm tired of the 49ers being like everybody else's good win. Like, no, beat these damn teams, man. Beat them down.
And I'm also tired. I love Diamador Lenore, but every time they lose, he's like, man, they got lucky. Like, stop. Please stop doing that. Like, it's such a bad look for any team to say like that, to talk like that, particularly a team like you, it's 2-3. Like, I don't know who they think they are at this point. It comes across as delusional, and it feels like it's Kyle Shanahan's attitude. Like, no matter what happens, we're the best team. Nah, you got to prove it every week.
I do think it comes from the top, to be honest. Like, they've talked about how they were the best team and all of that, the uncrowned champions. You got to get rid of that disease, man. That is not it comes across as so awful when you just get beat, and you get beat in a horrible fashion, and it's, oh, they got lucky. Like, no, man.
But that's their culture, right? That's when they lost the first Super Bowl. Even Jed York said it a few months ago. Well, I remember Nick Bosa getting held. So their attitude always is they won or they got screwed or the other team got lucky. And I guess that's kind of the attitude a bully would have. Like, you can't ever actually let down that mental edge. But how did they get screwed in the latest Super Bowl? Was it the refs? No.
Well, they were holding Nick Bosa in the latest Super Bowl too.
Okay, but there wasn't like one viral clip of like, well, if because everyone remembers 3rd and 15, the first one, and the Niners can point to that one play. But in this one, I don't think there's one play they can point to, and I think that's why it's harder for this team to get over that loss.
They need to. I mean, my God. Yeah. By the way, I didn't realize this. We were just talking about George Kittle. Josh Dubow of the AP tweeted this out.
He's the best.
George Kittle turns 31 today. His 6,499 yards receiving ranked 10th best among all tight ends before turning 31, and 5th best among all Niners players at any position, behind only Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens, Dwight Clark, and Gene Washington. The fact that he is 10th among tight ends and they don't even throw to him half the time. Imagine where he would be if they featured him.
He's an all-time great player, and his numbers won't accurately reflect how good he was. In 10 years, you're explaining to your kids, nah, George Kittle was better than your favorite tight end. They'll look like, wow, he only had like 35 touchdowns. Like, nah, Kyle Shanahan's a weirdo. You don't quite understand. George Kittle, if you had put him with Bill Walsh or Andy Reid, my God, the numbers he would have put up. Great player. And I traded him 2 years ago. I was like, this guy's getting old. He really has aged pretty well. I mean, he's hurt most of the time, but doesn't really seem to affect his play.
Although he was not good on Sunday. He was not good on Sunday. That play he got blown up on, that
it's not good. He
had multiple drops. He had one drop over the middle where he might still be running if he had caught it. He's had some drops this year. He did make that beautiful catch in the end zone against the Patriots. So there's been two. Last week he wasn't good. Hopefully he bounces back. I'd like to see that double screen again in Seattle like we saw a couple years ago, right? Fake Kittle over the middle. I'd sign for that.
Do you think he's going to be a Hall of Famer?
No. 0 chance.
No. 0 chance.
0 chance. To be a Hall of Fame tight end, you got to have like Tony Gonzalez, Shannon Sharp, Antonio Gates type numbers.
Is Antonio Gates even in the Hall of Fame?
I don't know if he's eligible. I think this might be his first year of eligibility. I think.
Here's the thing, though. He's 2-time All-Pro, first-team All-Pro. If he gets it again, if he gets one more first-team All-Pro, I think he's got a shot. Trent Williams only 3 first-team All-Pros.
For the record, like, I think George Kittle,
I think he's borderline,
is a Hall of Fame talent. Like, I just think he doesn't have the numbers because he hasn't been featured in the way these other tight ends were. Like, Antonio Gates has 116 touchdowns in his career.
And he's not in the Hall of Fame.
I think he has the most of any tight end.
But Antonio Gates was didn't block, and he was a three-time All-Pro. Again, I think 3 is a magic number. If you were the best player at your position for 3 different years, you got an argument. Because not that many players were. There's a lot of Hall of Famers who were 3-time All-Pros. There's not that many 4-time All-Pros in league history. I mean, I'm sure there's a sizable amount, but not that many.
I think that George Kittle is just as talented as any of those. I just think the way the voting works and the process, he won't get in. But
of all tight ends who had the combination of dominant blocking and dominant yards after the catch, to me, it's 1, Rob Gronkowski, that best of all time, and 2, Kittle. Now, Travis Kelce, I would take him over Kittle. I think Travis Kelce's an all-time great player, regardless of what position you want to call him. But just in terms of that particular combination of skill set, it's Gronkowski and Kittle. That's the way I see it.
I love George's talent. I just don't think he's been put in a position enough to.
I agree with that for sure.
Where
Can you imagine if he had played his whole career with Tom Brady?
Oh my God. I mean, his career, I think, would look a lot like Gronk's, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Gronk was a 4-time All-Pro.
I wonder. That's actually interesting. If you subbed Gronk for Kittle, I think he would have pretty similar numbers to Gronk.
Completely agree.
Karubal Tedeschi. I apologize if I said that incorrectly. Kyle is the only coach to lose in multiple Super Bowls in overtime. He was a coordinator for the first one.
Right.
He's also the only coordinator that gets blamed and credited with Super Bowl losses.
Well, that, to be fair, though, it's because he has a clear pattern that goes that precedes him as a head coach. So you could say that's not his fault, but it's partially his fault. And then that pattern has extended to now 18. That's a big number. Blown double-digit leads, and his dad at 33. It's almost like he inherited a trait genetically. It's crazy. I'm sorry.
It's not ideal.
No.
I think we can all agree on that.
And that's what I feel like when you could say Kyle is like, man, his scheme is great. Everyone wants it. He teaches it so well. But like, does a great coach give away double-digit leads like that? You feel like a great coach, whether you're an offensive guy or a defensive guy, like a lead like that is essentially safe with you because you're great. So to me, ultimately, that's your number one responsibility as a coach. You have a game in hand. You have the better team. You've shown it through 2-3 quarters. Close it out. Great coaches do that. Good coaches or bad coaches find ways to like make it interesting.
There was a stat, and of course now I can never find the stats when I need them. Damn it. He was 50.
Why are we calling you stats then?
That's a misconception. That's my nickname that I got when Todd McShay actually gave me that nickname at ESPN. Because that was my first job at ESPN, was handing and finding stats for the on-air personalities when I was an intern.
That seems kind of dehumanizing.
Oh, it was, because literally what happened was I was like a 20-year-old kid and nobody knew who I was. And somebody came by the studio and said, "Who's that kid in the studio?" And McShay turned and said, "Stats," because that was my job, was finding the stats for them. So that's how the whole.
I'd like to think if I'm like a super famous guy at ESPN at 45, I would take the 3 seconds to learn a 20-year-old's name. But Todd McShay is probably a great guy.
Oh, Todd's an all-time great guy.
Okay. So he meant it like in a loving way. Like I'm giving you like a nickname because we're cool. Okay, fair enough.
It also may have been like on my first day. So
okay, fair enough.
I don't think I had been there like working for.
So I was about to get heated. Like, come on, Todd. Todd.
Yeah, let's Caliendo. But I saw the stat where Kyle was like 52-4 with a I think it was like a 10-point lead at halftime. Something.
Right. No, I think it was the fourth quarter.
So 52 was fourth quarter is like, damn, he does close out those games. Now, 2 of those 4 happen to come this season. So maybe you could say this season, is not the same, but.
And the 18, that stat is like having a double-digit lead at any point in the game. So, I mean, you could have a double-digit lead in the first quarter and then never have it again after that. And then that factors into this particular statistic that was clearly designed to slander Kyle Shanahan. I'm so sorry. Kyle. And his father, his whole family name. God, Josh Dubow. Josh is an awesome follow. He's the best. Awesome stats on Twitter. One thing we haven't talked about, Grant, we haven't talked about the spread in this game. The Niners are still favored in Seattle, favored by 3.5 points against the Seahawks tomorrow night. The over-under is 49 points, I believe. Yes, 49 points. That's going up. It was 47. I don't know why I know this a couple of days ago. So now they're expecting what, like a 24, 20, something like that. Okay. I don't feel confident either way. Like 26, 23. I don't think I would touch this game with my money, to be honest with you, because like, is there a world where the Niners go in and eat the Seahawks lunch? Absolutely there is. If they run the ball and they even improve their red zone offense a tiny bit, they easily could blow the doors off the Seahawks. But if they stick with the drop back passing game
if the crowd starts to get to them, they get in long down and distance situations. Brock's going to throw the ball, a couple tips. Seahawks get some turnovers. I could see the Seahawks easily winning this game. This game scares me from a football standpoint and from a betting standpoint.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm so critical of the Niners, and it's easy for me to be like, oh, they're going to lose this game and they're going to go in a downward spiral. But again, I don't think this is a downward spiral team. I think this is a team that gets it together and then lets you down, and gets it together and then lets you down. So this is a great week for them to get it together. They know what's at stake. They know that they're going to be ridiculed and written off if they lose this game. So I think this is a week that they can get it together and look like themselves and give you glimpses of hope. And they may even beat the Chiefs next week too. But God, that might be the most dangerous thing. Because remember how the Eagles responded to beating the Chiefs last season? They acted like they had, like, oh, I guess we're back, and we proved that we should have beat them in the Super Bowl. And it's like, oh, the ultimate spiral that we've ever seen. So yeah, I can see I feel like the Niners should win this game. 3.5 point spread is nothing. Seahawks aren't that good. They should win this game convincingly. I don't think they'll dominate, but they should win convincingly.
And if that's what you think, then go and bet it with BetUS. They sponsor the program. And if you do, you can receive 150% on your first deposit and 125% on your second and third deposit up to $2,000. All you need is code YouTube150. I highly recommend BetUS. They have 24/7 personalized service, 365 days a year, fast and easy deposits and withdrawals, which, let's be honest, if you happen to win, you want to be able to get your money fast, and you can do that with BetUS. So please go and check that out with them. I've done it many times this year. I highly recommend it, and hopefully you come out on the winning side. I have to say, not to toot my own horn, Grant, but I've been pretty good with the bets this year, with the prop bets, with the bets against the spread. It's not bad. I've hit a bunch of like plus 500, plus 600 bets this year, which is unbelievable.
You should change your nickname from Stats to Bets.
That's too late now, but look, this doesn't happen to me very often. Usually I'm not good at it, but I don't know.
Sometimes you got to feel.
It's you don't mess with a streak, right? If
you don't mess with a heater, you don't leave on a heater.
Can I just say this too? Because the Niners are going to wear their throwback jerseys in this game for the second week in a row.
Cool.
To see them just pee down their leg in those throwback 94 jerseys, the best jerseys they've ever worn. In my lifetime, that's the best 49ers team of my life. That 94 team, Deion Sanders told me it's the best team he ever played on. And he played for some of those championship Cowboy teams as well. To see them do that in those uniforms just made it extra painful for me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. You know, it's been 30 years since they've won the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And so when you wear those uniforms, it's like, we're back. We're worthy. We're on that. We're one of the all-time great teams in franchise history and league history. It's like, take those freaking jerseys off until you're leading the division. Not before you're leading the division, but I guess they could be after this game. So maybe it's a confident move. I don't know. It feels wrong.
Like, to the NFL, the Niners wanted to wear the white on white throwbacks last week because it was so hot. And the NFL's like, oh, no, you can't. You have to declare that weeks in advance. Like, seriously? It's a friggin' jersey. Why can't we decide 10 minutes before we go out on the field? Like, what do we do?
The Cardinals wore white on white instead. So I guess they got the advantage.
Like, yeah, I mean, they weren't the ones getting run over at the end of the game.
No, it's because of the jerseys. That's why the Niners lost. Has Lombardi made that excuse yet? It was the heat. What about that? The league conspired against the Niners by not letting them wear white on white. It's not fair.
It was all part of the plan, Grant.
It's all part of the plan.
Right.
This is how you wanted the season to go. People that are, come on, stop with the histrionics.
You can't get too emotional. I mean,
you can't get too emotional. You got to be objective. Facts over feelings.
When the 49ers lose, it's a race to see who can come up with the craziest take. We should be really happy with where the 49ers are right now. 2-3.
Yeah, why would you criticize a team after losing to the Cardinals the way they have? And then the Rams 2 weeks before that. Why would you ever criticize a team now?
I don't know. It's going to be, look at the efficiency. It's going to be fine.
Oh my God. Just get a couple things here and there, clear it up. It's fine.
No worries, everybody.
I've never seen someone want to work for a team more than that. Like, they don't want you, man. This is all pro bono for free. Stop.
Oh God. There's so much going on with this team.
That's great.
I feel like we need a book or something, because I feel like there's so much more happening that, like, even especially now when teams are at a certain level and they begin to drop off, like that doesn't just happen for no reason. It happens for many reasons. It's like, as much as we like to narrow it down to one or two, it's a multitude of things. It's issues with the coaching. It's issues with the execution. It's issues with the roster construction. It's all of it. And I feel like there are so many things that we don't know that have happened to get us to this point.
And I like bringing our show full circle. What were we talking about at the beginning? What Charvarius Ward said to Mike Silver. Remind people what he almost said and then stopped saying.
He said, I know exactly what's wrong.
Okay.
And then he started to say what it was. And then he was like, nope, I'm not going
to me, that's the most important thing that anyone on this team has said this year. I know exactly what's wrong because that indicates that players are talking about this. There is something wrong, and there are theories in the locker room as to what it is. Maybe there's disagreement, but Charvarius Ward thinks he knows exactly what's wrong with this team, and he can't say it because in his mind, if he said it, it would cause an uproar. It's scandalous. And that's not like, well, we got some injuries. That's like, hey, well, I don't even want to speculate. No, I do want to do irresponsible speculation. That's what falls in that category of stuff I can't say. The coaches lost the locker room, or we're not a cohesive team. We got factions on this team. Like a lot of guys don't like each other on this team. Like that's the kind of stuff that you can't say publicly. So to me, that little quip is the most important thing anyone said. So it's the most honest thing anyone said all year.
It's interesting, and I would say this to Mooney Ward. Great. Fix it. If you know exactly, like that's the first step to solving a problem, right? Identifying the problem. Good. Check that box. It sounds like you've done that.
Yep.
Now fix it.
And again, when he spoke in his locker yesterday, he wasn't like, we're screwed and I don't know what we're going to do. He was like real calm and casual, like, hey, we went through this last year. We got this. And maybe they do. But I don't know. Some part of me feels like they're professional athletes that have to project confidence, but deep down they have big questions that they haven't had before.
Real quick, since we're talking about the defense, John Lynch was on KMBR talking about Robert Saleh. He said, I talked with Robert yesterday. I think he's planning on sitting this year out. We're happy with the way things are, with the way we've got things going in terms of the way things are being coached. In terms of the future, you can't prognosticate. We're focused on Seattle.
My question is, let's say the Niners fire Nick Sorensen after this year, but keep Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, and they're looking for their third defensive coordinator in 3 years, and Robert Saleh is available, and there's I'm sure there's a bunch of teams that want defensive coordinators. Would he look at the Niners as the best job out there? Go back to the Niners, coach Fred Warner again, coach Bosa again. They're older than the last time he was here. I mean, Lenore's probably leaving. Charvarius Ward's probably leaving. Like, maybe there are better defenses out there to coach. Has anyone thought about that?
I think it depends. Like, does Deommodore Lenoir, 1, turn into a really good player, and do they resign him 2? What about Jair Brown, Malik Mustafa, Renardo Green? Because, like, if 2 or 3 of those guys develop and you've got Bosa and Warner, then you're like, hey, this is, a decent core to come back and coach. If not, if it's just Warner and Bosa, I'd probably look.
I might look around. Because you could come back here and not do as well as he did the first time here and be like, oh, Saleh's lost his touch. Like, well, the personnel isn't exactly the same. That's an interesting one. Let's see what happens on that one. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's far from over. Or I think it's far.
We're just assuming that Kyle Shanahan's going to be the coach next year.
That would be crazy
assuming that
if that happened. But it's week 6.
He better not blow any more double-digit leads because the counter is on. Everyone knows the number's 18 now. Don't get to 20 by the end of the season. Don't do it.
That's the magic number. Oh, God.
Hell yeah. 21. You're out.
I don't want to see any more.
21.
Anyway, let's hope the Niners get a win. Grant, safe travels. Thanks for doing a little.
I'm not hoping the Niners get a win. What are you talking about? No, I kind of am hoping the Niners get a win because chaos is always interesting, but drama is better. And if the collapse has to happen, better for it to happen in January than early October. Come on. This is like the 3rd episode of the season. We got to keep it going. You can't kill off the protagonist now. It doesn't make sense.
Thank you to you, Grant. Safe travels. And thank you to BetUS for sponsoring this video. Once again, if you want to sign up for BetUS, use promo code YouTube150, everybody. Let's try to enjoy the game. Hopefully the Niners get a win. And we are not crying into our Cheerios on Thursday morning.
Again, I'm not hoping for that. Have a great day.